Alright, as we continue on with the reassembly of this pile, the next area we're going to be targeting is the electrical system. Now luckily, just like a lot of the other stuff on this car, the electrical system is pretty much all there. I mean, it is kind of pieced together from whoever used to have this car and just kind of made little Mickey Mouse repairs here and there, but everything is there as far as most of the plugs for all the different components and all. So really all I'll have to do is neaten up this stuff. Wherever there's little crimp terminal connections and other little temporary connections, I have to make all that garbage permanent. Solder it up, heat shrink tube, all that good stuff, because don't need to burn a car to the ground. But yeah, we got all the wiring harness coming into the engine bay, some garbage over there by that wiper motor, all the headlight plugs and everything, even on the inside. We have all our wiring, especially the wiring going to the back where the tail lights are at, and all the stuff for the ignition switches and, well, ignition switch, headlight switch, turn signal, all that stuff is in place. We even have our little dimmer switch for the headlights, wiring for the door switch paired right there, even the dome light. We have wiring for all this stuff. I might have to add some wiring in spots where wiring has been cut or otherwise broken, but we're not having to actually build an electrical system from scratch, at least, so that's a good thing. But obviously trying to do all this on camera would be a major bore, more than hearing me talk about it, so I'm gonna go ahead and run around this thing a few times and get all this garbage neatened up, and I'll be right back. Alright, we're off to start with our electrical setup, mainly just running the cables wherever they need to go. We've got our main cable right here routed along the bottom here, and situated underneath the battery tray we have our starter solenoid bolted in place right there and set up in a way where it's not going to come in contact with any metal on the regulator right there, which is also plugged up. Got all our headlight crap in place, even though this is going to be upgraded to LEDs in the future, but for right now it's in place. Got our wiper motor there plugged up, and some other basic wires for the engine crap, which later on I'll have to see what they go to when I actually get the engine in there. And here we have the wiring situated around the dash frame. Had to find a schematic for the headlight switch so I could get those wires plugged back in, because the old plug is not existent. Cigarette lighters plugged up. Ignition switch in the steering column has already been plugged up from the get-go. Our door jamb switches. We even have our cable wrapped up with tape and routed through this channel and through here, going all the way to the back. And coming out of the left side right there, later on I'll get some taillight sockets so I could wire all that garbage in and splice it into this stuff here, so I could get it all cleaned up and then be able to put all our panels back in place. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and put the gauge cluster right there inside the dash frame, and then start putting all the interior body panels in place. So stand by. We have most of our interior pieces in. We have our gauge cluster in, and even though it uses idiot lights that might work, we're going to probably go with an aftermarket gauge cluster later so we can get better readings of everything. Don't know if our speedo works or our fuel gauge, even though we do have a new sending unit in the tank. We'll find out. We also have our glove box in place. We have this other trim piece here for the HVAC and radio all in place. Most of that's probably going to have to come back out to actually put a radio in here and or hook up the HVAC control stuff later, but it's in. Also have this cover right here for the shifter bolted down. And even though our back seat is partially installed, it's going to have to come back out because there's small spots that I need to patch on in the floor, as well as right here where the front seat goes, before I put all the seats in, so we don't have to worry about the floor rusting out later on. So let me drag my tools out and get to grinding and burning. So stand by. We got our patches welded in. The one on the driver's side under the front seat, got that welded in place. On the back side here and the driver's side, we got a couple patches welded in, and a small patch on the passenger side. And on that small patch, I took a moment to weld a piece of a lag bolt in there to simulate the same thing right there for hooking the bottom of the back seat. So now I could go ahead and put the back seat in there and just really get it in here, because eventually I'm going to have to pull everything back out again, but I want to see how everything fits. So let me go ahead and start putting seats in. Stand by. Alright, we got our whole back seat snapped into place. Say we got our little lag bolts on the bottom to help hold the bottom part of the back seat right there, and we also have our bottom portion snapped in place. Also took a moment to screw in the side panels here, so all that is in place. Obviously I don't have any seat belts in here yet, but I at least wanted to see how all this garbage would fit in here, so later on when I do source some seat belts, because the old ones were trash, when I do source some new seat belts, I could go ahead and pull this stuff back off and put the seat belt hardware in place, so we can at least be able to safely secure somebody in the back seat. But with the back seat done, the next course of action is going to be to get the front seats in place. Now the tracks on this one are at least freed up. Those on the other hand are frozen. So I've been wetting them down with some WD-40 so I can at least have a fighting chance when I try to tap them loose. The other thing I have to address is right here on that seat and right there, the tab is missing. So I'm going to have to work those tracks up enough where I could weld something like a washer or whatever that'll serve as a mounting bracket to further secure these seats. So I could get away with just the 3 mounts, but that would be a little unsafe. So I want to at least be able to hold these seats down at 4 corners so we can at least say we're nice and secured. So let me go ahead and start playing with these things a little bit, and I'll show you what I came up with. Alright, what I came up with, I took a couple of these offset lug nut washers and welded them in place on the tab here to serve as our little mounting bracket. And being offset, it puts the hole at about a good spot similar to that tab there. And being a larger hole, I got some wiggle room to move the seat around to be able to get the bolt in place, which of course would have a large washer on it to help secure the thing around that giant hole. With that, go ahead and get these trashy seats mounted so we can try to wrap up our interior. Stand by. Alright, got our seats bolted in place as they need to be, All four corners, yep, they are still ratty. Nothing's changed, but they are in place. The back seat also is in. It's not as bad, but yep, that's what we got to work with. But this is all we have as far as interior panels for the most part. But as time progresses, I might be able to source some more bits and pieces to at least get the doors covered or whatever. But for right now, we're gonna conclude this little segment because it's hot as hell out here. So till the next time, as usual, like, subscribe, notifications, TikTok, all that, and stay tuned for more of this project and any other projects we might be bouncing around to. So till the next time, I'll catch you later. Going inside. I'm done.